it looks like X11 and Wayland just got a new competitor. And I have to say, I am all here for it. Yes, that's right. It is pretty freaking awesome. And so, without further ado, I'm going to talk about this. But before I talk about it, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the struggles with X, why people don't want to use X, why people don't want to use Wayland, a few other things. And I'm going to get to this competitor because I really want to set this up right so that you can understand, A, what the goal is on this new project, and whether it's even worth entertaining. Hey, I'm Shaston. Guess what? I'm actually a software engineer, and I'm a lifelong user of open source software. I've used BSD and Linux for about 3 decades now. I'm kind of an expert, I think. Let's just talk about where we are with X as it stands, okay? Here's the thing. No one, and I mean no one, wants to switch over to Wayland, it seems like, or very few people. There's a few snobs out there that are really close to like the whole modern desktop. You know, they think that if you get the modern desktop for Linux, you know, something that you would want to use on your laptop, that somehow you're going to get more users and that equals superiority. And this is where I disagree wholeheartedly, because I think that the things that made Linux so special, A, freedom to use what you want, right? This is why people aren't switching over to Wayland. They feel forced to do it. And not only that, with Wayland, you have to come up with so many different fixes for so many problems. You want to record your screen? You need X Wayland or something. You know, like you need a lot of other tooling besides Wayland to actually work correctly on your system. However, most of the problems that you see in Wayland are the implementations of it. GNOME has one implementation of Wayland. KDE has a different one, and so on and so forth. And it's not just one agreed upon protocol or one agreed upon use case like it is with Xorg, so it isn't exactly predictable. This has been a huge problem for Wayland, and they don't create tooling to make your life easier and to put you on board. They're just like, okay, you want a tiling window manager? You kind of have to figure it out yourself. Even if it isn't that hard, there's still like a learning curve that is much simpler with X11. That's why people don't want to switch. If you made the tooling to where it was an easy transition, I think a lot of people would switch. That's the first part, I would say. The second part, and this is the part that I got into with the Fedora contributor, is that the people at Wayland are lying to you. The people at the GNOME Foundation, the freedesktop.org, are lying to you about Xorg. Is Xorg the relic that they say it is? There are things that are problematic with the code base. My biggest complaints when it comes to Linux and the Linux ecosystem is Xorg and Dbus. They are a complete mess. It isn't do one thing and one thing only. It's like throw everything in the kitchen sink at it and kind of make it work. And see, that's why I don't like those programs. I hate them, in fact. In fact, if I could get rid of Dbus altogether, I would tomorrow. And I would probably say the same thing about Xorg. I see why the ex-developers of Xorg went over to Wayland. I mean, even the developer of Compiz is working on Wayland right now. And it's kind of interesting because why would they do that? What would possess them if X11 is working? And it kind of brings me back to this thing where there is a solution and a way forward with Xorg, and that's what is being lied about. However, I don't think that it will be maintainable in the future entirely. But maybe it will be. Again, with this new project, I actually have a little bit of hope. So there are a lot of alternatives to X and Wayland that potentially could be on the table. One of them would be like DirectFB. However, it would be kind of hard to kind of morph that into a replacement of X because it's basically for just, like a screen with a single application on it. It has some graphics rendering. Some people have said that it has really good graphics rendering. Again, I don't know if that is the case or not. There's another one, X-Quartz. Okay. And X-Quartz is the old Mac OS implementation of X that ran in OS X 10.8. And I don't know a lot about this, but something that just occurs to me off the top of my head makes me think that it wouldn't work on all architectures, at least not out of the box, so you would have to address that immediately, and that could prove more difficult than we might have previously imagined. It's really easy to create some sort of graphics protocol for a architecture that you know really well, right? And you can create quite a level of predictability in behaviors. That's the case with Macintosh. That's why people like using Mac, is because everything works really well out of the box. Could they use something like X-Quartz? Yeah, probably. And that's a good alternative, right? There are a couple of other alternatives worth mentioning. Mir, but Mir has kind of went the direction of cell phones, and they work really well with Wayland. So that one's probably not on the table. There is one project. That's Tiny. And this one is basically like damn small Linux has tiny core. In fact, there was a comment. Okay, so this is a conversation that I had on one of my recent videos. You can go ahead and check that out right here. So check this out. You're paranoid and outright wrong about a lot of issues. As far as RAM, use what? I don't know. Tiny Core runs a graphical desktop X11, use only 48 megabytes of RAM. Here he actually is making a false equivalent to what I actually made in my video, what I actually said. I said X11. Tiny Core doesn't run on X11. It runs TinyX. It's different. Tiny Core uses the TinyX X Visa server by default. This is not X11. It's not even close to being the same thing. Now that we are on this subject, I do think that Tiny Core and how they are implementing X and Xorg is a way forward, possibly. I do, because here you could actually build on top of it. You could take everything you like about Xorg, like say Xrandar or something like that, and what could you do? You could actually implement it with this, and it would work brilliantly, and it wouldn't have the mess that is Xorg, and more specifically X11. Alright, the project that I am talking about is Phoenix. It's a new X server. It's written in Zig. It's kind of interesting that it isn't written in Rust, which I'm so happy about, because I honestly wish that Rust would just go away, because the simple fact of the matter is there's no hate on Rust developers. There's no hate on Rust as a programming language. I'm sure it's great. My problem with Rust is the amount of time it takes to write a program versus something like C or Golang or something like Zig. So this is really an interesting choice that I fully support. So he basically starts off by saying it's not ready to be used yet. There's just some applications that it could be used under, like GLX, EGL, or Vulkan graphics, fully hardware accelerated and nested in an existing X server. He talks about some of the security issues that he's going to be able to fix. It'll be safer than Xorg servers by parsing the protocol messages automatically as it's written in Zig. It also automatically catches illegal behaviors such as index out of array bounds. Applications will be isolated from each other by default and can only interact with each other through a GUI prompt or asking for permission, such as screen recorders will only be allowed to record the window specified or explicitly giving the application permission before launched, such as window manager or external composite. This is kind of an interesting way to handle it. I was thinking not too long ago of handling it a lot like BSD handles it, which would be, taking like some sort of capsicum approach like BSD does. And so like I wouldn't actually write capsicum, but I would write libcapsicum, and I would basically set the permissions inside of a config folder or a config file, and basically like the config file would be basically render the permissions, and you could write libcapsicum plus like the tooling that already exists in Linux, and you would have the security that you needed and the exceptions that you need, because obviously you need a few exceptions here and there. And applications that rely on global hotkeys should work, which is great. This is an issue. The simple fact of the matter is I had to find a workaround to get my global hotkeys to work in OBS Studio. And that was a little challenging. I really had to figure it out. And so this is a real welcome improvement. Basically improvements for modern technology, for graphics handling, basically saying that like there's no tearing by default or whatever, and that you'll have Wayland compatibility. You'll be able to nest the display server, so being able to run Phoenix and nest it under X11 or Wayland with hardware acceleration. This is not only useful for debugging Phoenix, but also for developers who want to test the window manager or compositor without restarting the display server that they're running, or being able to run Phoenix under Wayland as an alternative to X Wayland server would be a good option. So in other words, it would be just like X Wayland, but for Xorg servers. This is brilliant. So some goals that they don't have, like they don't have the goal to replace the Xorg server. They don't really want any legacy visuals. They want to only support true color visual, and multiple screens display monitors are going to be supported, but not X11 screens, which is kind of interesting. Exclusive access grab server has no effect on Phoenix. You can see it's really easy to install this, which I'm going to be installing this at least, and basically testing this out and seeing what, if anything, what it is going to, how it's going to work. Basically, you can see that building this is really simple, right? Just go through, build it, and I'll be building this soon on on my distro that I'm building, and I'm gonna test it. I'm gonna see what you can do with this and that sort of thing. I'm really interested in it. The license is GPL 3.0. I would be even happy if this was GPL 2.0, right? But that's great. Okay, so it's free and open source forever. I don't like this MIT progression. MIT is not open source. I mean, it provides for some open source software, but it doesn't always have to remain open source. So I love this. Okay. So basically, basic facts about this. Isn't it easier to write a Wayland compositor? He basically says no. Basically, he says not many people have attempted to write an X server from scratch or have the proper understanding of the protocol, but if you do, you can see it's quite simple. Okay. Keep it short. My applications. So why write a new X server instead of a Wayland compositor? Well, he basically has a number of complaints. He can't record his screen properly on Wayland without using X Wayland and a few other things. And he just basically doesn't like how it works on his system, so he's coming up with a solution to a lot of this. One of these things it needs is to bypass Wayland compositor and use X Wayland either in global shortcuts. This is actually, and despite there being an XDG desktop port, okay. So one of the things that needs to bypass Wayland compositor and it can't use X Wayland either is global shortcuts. Despite there being an XDG desktop portal protocol for global shortcuts, it's mostly useless. This is true. I had this problem with OBS Studio. Also, when I use my screen key, to basically record my desktop and record which keys I'm pressing in my NeoVim videos, I can't do it on Wayland at all, even when I use X Wayland. It's just useless. And so I've tried everything for that one. There's a lot of fixes underway, but yeah, so far it's just kind of been a huge pile of crap as far as I'm concerned. So this is not an issue with X11. They don't have a protocol for global shortcuts. Instead, it allows applications to freely listen to keyboard inputs and implement it however they want. Note that this can be done while preventing keyloggers. This is another issue, and this is a big one that I'm going to address very soon, is, this is the biggest complaint with the Wayland devs, is the whole keyloggers issue. And there are a lot of things that I think the whole keyloggers issue is overblown, in my opinion. At least in my workflow, I've really never had to deal with it, and so it's really interesting to me, and I'm going to be doing a full in-depth video on this very soon. Okay, global shortcuts on Wayland is complex enough and ended up crashing on both Hyperland and GNOME desktop portals when using it. Ended up creating a pull request to fix that crash in the Hyperland desktop portal. This is just one issue with Wayland that GPU Screen Recorder UI has. There are many more which are fundamental issues that has never been fixable. Every developer has tried to write applications that try to do anything usual as experience these problems on Wayland. This is true. So it goes on. Almost all the issues people have had with Xorg server are not the issues with X11 protocol, but the Xorg server. Some others, such as security, are minor issues that are easily solvable without requiring any changes to the X11 protocol. There are many more issues with Wayland that are not mentioned here. Indeed. Okay. Doesn't X11 have fundamental issues with tearing multiple monitors, HDR, security, etc. that can't be fixed? No. Most information about how X11 works online is wrong. Some of the misinformation has been spread by Wayland compositor developers. Okay. I don't know if he's right about this. Yes, there has been a lot of criticism by Wayland compositor developers, but understand that most of those Wayland compositor developers are actually ex-Xorg developers and even current Xorg developers. Like some of the maintainers for Xorg are Wayland compositor developers. They know that code base inside and out. They know it better than I'll ever know it, and probably would know it just as good as this guy, or maybe even more, but he seems to think that he's found a way around some of these issues. Again, I'm really excited to see what would come of this, but these issues are related to Xorg server, not X11 protocol. Again, those Wayland compositor devs disagree with him. Now, I don't know if that's just malevolence, if they're just, malicious, or if they're speaking, untruths about how X11 or Xorg work. I don't know. From what I understand, though, I find it funny that pretty much every Xorg developer works for Wayland now. Even developers that develop Compiz is working for Wayland. So it's interesting to me. And when 10-bit color mode is enabled in the Xorg server, it can break some applications such as Steam. They'll start, but all of these issues can be solved without affecting client applications, even without introducing a new X11 protocol extension. Yeah, I think that's just an elif statement. But personally, it should be an elif statement. I mean, you would think. There's one other project worth mentioning, and that's XLibre. And I'm a huge fan of this project. I mean, honestly, you put the GNOME devs underwear in a knot. You put the freedesktop.org's underwear in a knot, the Red Hat Pudwhackers underwear in a knot. I love it. Even though I called Homeboy an anti-vaxxer, I love this project, okay? Even though I don't agree with him on virtually anything when it comes to, my worldview, we differ quite a bit. And so I wanted to just say that despite those disagreements that I have with this person, I love Weigelt's project here, because I love the fact that he forked Xorg. I love the fact they stuck his middle finger out at those corporations. I love the fact that he stood alone and took an act of faith, and now we have some developers who are actually looking to fix some of the problems with Xorg. The problem is that there are some XLibre people who are thinking that that we're dividing the community with Phoenix. And my hope is actually that the XLibre people and the Phoenix guys actually come together and work together, because I think they could solve a lot of the problems that we're having and actually make it quite extensible. I would be really happy to work on a project like that. Right now we got a bunch of bickering, and see, the thing is the Wayland people are bickering all the time, okay? The GNOME guys bicker about, certain things about Wayland, and the Plasma guys are bickering. There's all this bickering on the other side. Let's stop bickering. Let's join forces, put our heads together, see what we can do, and see how our technologies can complement one another. Because I'll tell you what, if just a few people did that, I think we can come up with a much better alternative. And I don't think it will be an exercise in futility. I'm going to make a call to action. I think it's pretty appropriate. I agree with Brody Robertson that if you want to use X, then be about it. Contribute to X, make donations, contribute code, do whatever you can to keep it working. If you're interested in doing something about some of these bloated projects, something like Xorg or Dbus, Dbus is another one we need to do something about. I'm going to make a video about that tomorrow. But if you want to do something like that, join my Discord server, and we'll create solutions. We'll put solutions on the table. Anybody from the XLibre or the Phoenix project, even Wayland developers are more than welcome on my channel to discuss the problems that they see, certain ways you could possibly, fix them. And we could have a discussion. We could have just a rational discussion, an honest discussion about some of the ways forward instead of bickering at one another. I would rather be proactive with my channel and just have everybody come to the table and talk about what their grievances are, what the problems that they perceive, what the solutions are in their view. Put it in a big molting pot and just hash it out and try to come up with the best ideas. I think that's the best way forward. So join my Discord server. Say hi. Tell me that you want to develop better software and better everything. And we'll have a big discussion, and everything that we do, we'll do it in the public. We'll go live on YouTube, and we'll do everything in the public, and we'll be transparent about everything. It's a democracy. Let's figure it out, and let's get 20 people. I want to get 20 people to join my Discord server. It will soon become my mailing list, and it will be an online mailing list, like I said. And we'll do everything out in the open. Any discussions, any frustrations, anything will be out in the open for everyone to see. And let's hash this out like men, like adults. Let's hash it out. And I say men because most developers are men, but any woman that is also welcome, obviously. I welcome gender equality. I don't care who you are. I don't care about your sexual orientation, your religion, or anything else. I care that you just want to make good technology. That's it. If you'd like to see the video of why I don't think Red Hat Linux really cares about the desktop, check that video out right here. I'd like to check out these amazing people who are my highest tier patrons. If you'd like to support me, the information is in the description. See you later.